Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing my spoiler review for Black Panther. As I said in my non spoiler review, I really did enjoy this movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to this because it does contain spoilers, and you don't want to be spoiled for this movie. Um, so, this may take a while because there's so much in this movie, and it was all thrown at you, so this may be a bit long. So, just to start off, I think that the villains were phenomenal. Now I'll get into more about each specific character, or not each specific character, but the most important characters, and what I thought of that later on. But first, I want to talk about the messages. This movie, of course, had lots of messages that were very much powerful. It was very much kind of like this is where, or this is how everyone should be perceived as equals. And I think you saw that between the Black Panther and Killmonger dynamic. And I think that Black Panther was shown something by Killmonger. He wasn't just a normal villain, but instead he was kind of like, this is where everybody is now. And T'Challa, the Black Panther, was where everyone should be. And I think that this does bring up conversation about the movie, and I think it's conversation that should be started, and I'm glad it started like this. And I think Ryan Coogler, the director, obviously did an amazing job at actually bringing this movie into being. And I think it's starting the conversation that should have started a while ago, and I think it will be, it's such a push in the direction, but it isn't just that first level of like, well, this is what's happening, but it's a second level of, well, now we know what's happening. This is taking a head-on approach to it. And I think it's a very important movie for the future of the MCU and movies in general, as I think it'll very much shape how the black community is interpreted and portrayed in movies, which I think will be a turning point for our society. And along with that, it had a political message. Now, the political message in this movie was a bit, I think, on top of everything, a bit much. I think this movie packed in so much because you kind of had to. And I mean, you kind of have to pack in a lot into this movie if you want to see everything. Because not only did this movie have to kind of set up Infinity War, although it did a very good job at not doing that and not saying there's other parts of the MCU. They did show a bit of Civil War, but this movie was very good at being self-contained and didn't suffer that kind of like, well, we need to throw every Avenger in this. So I'm very happy. But I mean, this movie did have a lot to do. This movie had to show you this whole new country that you hadn't even seen before ever, except for a little bit at the end of Civil War. And it needed to introduce you to this. They needed to introduce you to a whole bunch of new characters you've never met before, a whole bunch of villains, and then along with that, had to push a message that was like a push multiple messages. And I think how well it juggled all that, along with keeping a plot in the movie, was so good. And I did like how they explored it so much. And I mean, I liked a lot of Wakanda and what they did with that, which I'm going to talk about later on, when I talk about exploring of Wakanda. But I think this movie handled all the things it had to do so well, and I want Ryan Coogler just deserves a raise at least. And he should come back to do Black Panther 2 or whatever the sequel is going to be called, because I think he did such an amazing job. I think he can pull it off again, and I think just the way he portrayed it is just phenomenal, and how he juggled everything, I just think is amazing. So I'm going to go over the characters. The characters were very strong, and although I had a list of like the best one, like I knew the best three at least, it was very hard to list the rest of them because they're all just so strong characters. But I'm gonna go through my list and I'm gonna just talk about each character and why I enjoyed each character so much and what their presence in the movie did to enhance the experience. So I'm gonna start off with my favorite character, which is Shuri, who is the sister of Black Panther, who was played by Lietta Wright. Um, she was like the entire time very entertaining and a bit of like the human, like a human character who you could connect to while still being a superhero. And I mean, she is like her phenomenality with that role of being a character who was very much kind of like, I don't like this royal stuff. I don't like being like this. Yet I I'm very supportive of Black Panther. Was something I think I really enjoyed about her. I think I also liked the fact that she, like her big, like how much she made everything work the way it was in Wakanda. And I think that was just amazing. The next one character that I'm going to talk about is probably the best Marvel villain to date, and probably best superhero villain. Maybe Joker is better. Nah, Joker's a bit better. But Claw, Andy Serkis's character. Claw is a character who I honestly think did not deserve to die. I think that Claw, and I don't think he's dead. I think he'll come back. I mean, after what they did with Everett Ross after he took the bullet for Nakia, or yeah, I can't say these names. After that, I think I think they can all come back. I'm just hoping someone did something. Someone cloned him, someone took some of his DNA and they can remake him. I don't think he should be gone. I mean, they're bringing a whole bunch of villains back in Infinity War, apparently, including the Red Skull and Ultron. So I would be like really happy if they decide to take that opportunity to bring Claw back. Maybe if Avengers 4 deals with about multiverses, maybe they could grab another version of Claw who's basically the same thing, and they just bring him into this, and like, yeah, he never died, he's back. Or he did die, but we brought another one. Because I think Claw really deserves to be continued on, just how phenomenal he was. And I just overall how much I enjoyed him as a character. And Andy Serkis' performance the entire time was just like the best. Like the joke about letting the guy run and then shooting him, like, it's to spread out the crime scene to make us look like amateurs. You can go, but you can't tell anyone. I enjoyed that character so much. The next character on my list is, of course, the Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman, as the Black Panther, had such a range of emotion and was able to play a character who was kind of sure but wasn't really sure, and who needed kind of like that push that he got. And I think that Chadwick Boseman played him perfectly. He didn't seem like a cheap kind of like, it's not like he was like a gag in a sense, or that he was a very like cyborg serious character, or a cyborg in Justice League, but he was very much not funny, because Black Panther isn't funny. Well, he still cracked jokes and smiled. He was kind of like in between serious and funny. And he didn't take either side, because funny would have been too much and fully serious would have been out of character. So I'm so glad that Chadwick Boseman was able to show that and have such a range of emotion. I mean, just like the entire time, I was just like, you could just tell Chadwick Boseman was just the best thing about that, like one of the best things about that movie, and was the best, like is going to be the best superhero in Infinity War. And I can't wait to see how they build him up more, as we'll talk about later with sequel or in another video, depending on how long this one goes, because it's already like at 10 minutes. And I'm only through half the things I want to talk about. But I think he was such an amazing character, and I can't wait to see more of him in Infinity War and in the future of the MCU. So the next character I want to talk about is Mumbaku, aka Manape, as he is called in the as he's referred to in the comics, and who was played by Winston Duke. I do believe Winston Duke was on This Is Us. I can check right now. But even just how well he portrayed that character, and I think that a lot of the greatness of these characters don't come from necessarily, and I'm not saying that this isn't true at all, but I don't think that a lot of the success of these characters come from like the writing of the scripts per se. I think a lot of what these characters do does come from the writing, and I can't take that away from them, but I think that he's just so good at what he does. Like, they're just so good at acting these characters and portraying these characters that they're able to like successfully portray these characters. So I'm looking. I don't think he was on This Is Us, even though I thought he was. So I guess he isn't on it. Oh, I thought he was. Anyways, I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, you can let me know in the comments. But I think his, like, especially the first, like, inauguration scene, where he's like, I want to challenge you. I think that he just was amazing. And the way they portrayed, and I mean, we all knew that going into this, like, people who knew the character knew it was going to be very difficult to, in this movie, have Manape, because although that's who he is, you could get the racist type of hint from it. And I think they played it with it so well that he was still able to be the same character he was, while wasn't referred to by that name. And I think it was so good how they were able to, and how he played a meaningful role rather than just some guy who's there. And I mean, it was just so good the way he did that. I'm kind of not disappointed he became kind of an ally to Black Panther, but that he isn't still a villain, because they have kind of just whipped off three of their most iconic villains, rather than pulling a Doctor Strange where they take care of an unknown villain and then go for the big ones later on. And even kind of, in a way, I guess, Iron Man, I mean, his trilogy was debatable, in terms of especially using known villains. I mean, the only known villains he really used was in Iron Man 2 with Whiplash specifically. But I think it was a very good, he was a very good character, and Winston Duke portrayed him just perfectly. So the next character on my list is Okoye, who is the captain of the Dora Milaje, basically the warriors that were in the movie, portrayed by Danae Gurriera. So I think she was amazing, and I remember in my theater specifically, when in the South Korea nightclub where she did her first fight scene, people were cheering when she started fighting, and that was something I was like, if that happens in movies more often, like, if that's happening now, then clearly it hasn't been done enough, and that's an issue. If you don't feel like there's someone, like, if she starts fighting and people are starting to cheer, I mean, sure, it's good that people are cheering, but that also means that Hollywood has not done it enough, that it's normal. Like, you think when Iron Man starts fighting, even when Black Panther starts fighting, people do it, like, will start clapping. Probably, I mean, some people might, I mean, maybe, but if, like, I think it says something toward what what characters they'll use in movies, and I think it says something toward that, and it needs to be done more, and I think this movie, again, will be the opening to that realm of possibilities. So next is Nakia, portrayed by Lupita Nyong'o. She was amazing. They were able to play with the fact that she was like kind of like a love interest to Black Panther the entire movie, and I think although they played it with that, they didn't make her like the weak character who needed saving. She was a bit more of like a strong equal in a sense, and I liked the fact that they portrayed her as an equal and not as kind of just like a, person, like just like a weak person who like needed Black Panther to save her all the time. So I like that. I mean, besides the beginning where Black Panther did come in and save her in that first fight scene, but I think that there was a reason behind that, and it wasn't just like she can't handle it. It's more like I want her there for my coronation. And I think I enjoyed her as a character and can't wait to see more of her again in Infinity War. Now I'm going down a bit more, and this is where Michael B. Jordan, who played Eric Killmonger, was actually on my list. Now he's a much lower because he was a great villain, probably one of the best in the MCU. And this character, like when Winston Duke was a villain, he was amazing. When, like in the movie, when Andy Serkis, like Claw, was a villain, he was amazing. When Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger was a villain, he was amazing. So every single villain, at least while they were villains, some of them turned good, like M'Baku, or at least allies. But all those villains were so good as villains, and they weren't shallow. Like Michael B. Jordan's actual like whole thing and whole like motivation, which I'll talk about later or soon actually, was just amazing. And I think his motives aligned almost opposite to what T'Challa's were, and I think that created a great dynamic, especially toward the end. And finally, on the big characters I'm going to talk about list, even though there's a lot of characters I could have talked about, I'm putting Everett K. Ross, played by Martin Freeman. The one node besides Claw, I guess. Yeah, Claw, besides Claw. So I can't say that. But he was an interesting character. He seemed very much kind of like, I'm going to stop you at the beginning, and then he was like, okay, you know what? I'll help you, because we have to save the day. So I think that was good. But I think the issue with him, and I think this was one of the problems I felt with the movie, was that he wasn't, it was almost like he decided, I'm just going to kind of like be here. I need to do my job. Oh, wait, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to flip sides quickly because it's convenient for me, kind of. And I feel like there wasn't most characters, when they flip sides, there's a turning point. For example, you could say Michael B. Jordan, when Killmonger, when he became evil, there was a reason he became evil. Or that he wasn't evil, but he hated Black Panther. When M'Baku changed from evil to good, I don't think I saw that same kind of like realization, like, or big moment that made him kind of like, I need to become a good guy. It was just kind of a bit of talk between the two. That it was like, yeah, I'm a good guy now. And I think that although there wasn't much of a motivation, I think it was still an amazing point. Um, so I didn't see that for him when he became kind of like he went from I need to do my own thing to I'm gonna work with you because I can. So I think that was an issue with him. No, I think all the motivations were well placed for most of the movie. I mean, I love Michael B. Jordan's motivation, which was, of course, to get revenge on the family who killed his father, and to kind of help those like African Americans outside of Wakanda, who Wakanda just letting kind of like just be oppressed in a sense, while everybody else in Wakanda is happy. And so he was like, I want to help everybody, and I want to send all our weapons to everybody, and I want them to all go and like fight back and take down the oppressors. And so that was a really good motivation because Black Panther's father killed his father, and because they were brothers, I think. Yeah, they were brothers. And I think I did enjoy that. And I liked how he had a motivation and he stick to it, and he didn't kind of flip flop saying, yeah, well, I'm gonna kind of go against my motivation here. I also did like how he died at the end, kind of like getting to see the sun set was really nice. And he was kind of like, I mean, you could kind of side with him, kind of like, yeah, why are you guys being so stubborn about this? I mean, you guys got this wonderful city, and you won't even help people outside of your own city when you've got all this technology at your disposal that people could use, right? Even like Nakia at the beginning was helping people, but Black Panther was like, no, we can't. We have to protect our borders. Yeah, well, I mean, like even if you turn like kind of like Africa into your borders, you could expand your borders and help people, right? Doesn't mean you have to go in a war. You can just kind of like support them, aid. And I mean, they did at the end. They came around to it. But I think they could, like, I feel like you could side with him until the end. Well, they did. You could kind of side with him saying, like, you're kind of right. I mean, who should we really be cheering for? And I did like how they kind of did the fight for the throne and how he kind of lost the throne. And then he came back. He's like, I'm ready to fight for the throne again. Kind of like proving myself type situation. Although, how much of it was a proving yourself and more like, we need to go, 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 go. Because I don't know if he really had that moment where he's like, this is how I'm going to be king. He kind of just came over and it was like, I'm going to be king now. I'm going to fight you again and win. So I did enjoy that. And in terms of fight scenes, which is next, fight scenes were pretty good. I mean, overall, just seeing all those fight scenes, a lot of them were kind of like semi-fight scenes, but there was still, I mean, Black Panther action is what you want in a movie. And this movie didn't shy away from doing slight jump scares, which was really good because you were kind of like, And they were okay to go a bit brutal. They just didn't show a lot of blood to keep it at a PG-13 rating. So that was pretty good. I think that people were complaining there wasn't enough fighting. I think that for a movie where you had to do so much, did you really want them to fight and not develop characters? Not develop the scene? Because this wasn't a scene where you could just say, yeah, you're on like Earth or in New York, where you can just kind of walk down the street and see New York. Right? Or you can just go to New York and you're like, well, this is what it looks like. You don't need to develop the scene. Whereas in this movie, you had to kind of develop the scene because you had to develop the scene. Because it was a place you couldn't just go to and just go see. Say, hey, look, it's New York. That's where the Avengers fight. But you had to actually develop the place. So I think that you're going to see more action as you go into Infinity War and Black Panther 2. But overall, I think the action for this movie was great. And I do have no complaints with that. The next thing is the exploring with Wakanda, which I kind of touched on before. But it was amazing. the way they just explored, they showed you the wonders of Wakanda. I mean, I just enjoyed it so much. And so that was pretty good. And I wanted to just say the way the tribe system worked. I really enjoyed how they handled it. Kind of like, well, once upon a time, there were 5 tribes, right, or 4 tribes, and they all came together under one leader, the Black Panther, who found this and drank it, gave him superhuman strength, and they all kind of went under him, which was great. And so it was kind of like you saw how everything had to be done by the books. So if someone beat him in combat, they were Black Panther. It's the way it works. And I liked how the tribes could send someone in and say, I want him to fight for the throne. So, like, it was almost democratic, which is odd because you don't normally see democracy. Like, you wouldn't imagine fighting for a position would be democracy. But I think they portrayed it as kind of like a advanced version of democracy almost, where everyone was kind of like, well, or ideal, that's the word, ideal version of democracy, where everyone's kind of like, I'm following the rules whether I like it or not. I'm Black. And I liked how they were able to play with those rules, yet still follow them strictly. I think the movie was pretty good. Not the best, obviously, and I think they had a lot to set up. And I can't wait to see more of what they do going forward. I'd like to hear thoughts about the movie down below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts on this movie, and you can talk spoilers in the comments. Tell me what you thought of it. Follow us on social media. And I hope you enjoyed my review of the Black Panther, and see you next time.